Hello everyone, welcome to UN Digital class. So, in today class we will continue with our previous class. In the previous class I have already discussed about the concept of input and output devices and also the mapping techniques regarding the input and output organization. So, next we will discuss some other concept regarding the input and output organization of a computer system. Okay. So, next one is our memory mapped I/O. So, in the memory mapped I/O concept, when the I/O device and the memory both share the same address space, and that is called as the memory mapped I/O concept. In the previous mapping technique, we discussed and see that in the isolated map technique, the memory and the I/O device both shares different address spaces, and for that we need some extra commands. But in the memory mapped I/O concept, both the I/O devices and the memory, they shares the same address space of the computer system. So, that is called as memory mapping techniques for the input and output devices. So, with the memory mapped I/O concept, any machine instruction that can access memory can be also used to transfer data to or from an I/O device. Then next one is our most of the computer systems uses memory mapped I/O concept, and some processor have special in and out instructions to perform input and output transfers. Okay, and by using these in and out instructions, the data input and data output can be possible. Then next one is our when building a computer system based on these processors, the designer has to choose what the instructions has to be given for connecting I/O devices and for connecting to the memory. Okay. The next one is this is the interface for an input output device. So, here as you can see there are three lines, one is used for address, another one used for data and another one is used for control. So, basically the buses which are available inside the computer system, that is divided into three lines, which bus that carries only the address related information, that is called as address lines, and the bus which carries only the data, that is called as data lines, and the bus which carries only the controls which is generated by the control unit, that is called as control lines. Okay, and there is address decoder which is connected to the address lines. That means whatever the address is flows in the address line, that has to be decoded and then it will be sourced in the main memory, okay, or in the cache memory. The next one is our data lines, and data lines is connected to the data and status registers. So, these registers are basically used to store the input and output information which is provided by the input and output devices for some period of time. And then there are some control circuits which is used to generate the control lines and also the control signals, by using which we control different operations in our computer system. Okay. Then the address decoder, the data and the status registers and the control circuitry, that all are required to coordinate the input and output transfers, and by including all these components, the circuit is called as the interface circuits, or it is said as the device interface circuit. So, basically an interface circuit constitutes the address decoder, one control circuit and data and status registers, and also the buses, that is our address bus, data bus and control bus. Then next one is our input and output techniques. So, there are some techniques which is used to transfer the data between the main memory and the input and output devices. So, there are basically three techniques, one is our programmed I/O and another one is our interrupt event, then next one is our direct memory access. So, we will go through these techniques one after another. The first one is our programmed control I/O. So, when the input output data transfer takes place, then that may be controlled by some programs, or you can say some line of codes. Okay, so let's see how the data transfer between the input output device and the memory is controlled by the programs. So first, consider a simple example where the input and output operations involve a keyboard and a display device. Here the keyboard is used to provide the input to the computer system, and the display device here is our output system. So we have to transfer the data from the keyboard to the display unit. Okay. So there are 4 registers basically used to perform these operations. Okay. So there are 2 flags. One is our KIRQ, that means keyboard interrupt request, and DIRQ, that means display interrupt request. In status registers are used in conjunction with the interrupts. So these are 2 flags, one is KIRQ, another one is our DIRQ. So as these both are 2 flags, so it can be set to 0 or it can be set to 1. So when the interrupt is activated, it will set to be 1, and when the interrupt is deactivated or disabled, it is set to 0. Then this is the diagram, and by using this you can easily understand the concept of program control IO. Here the data in register, that means whatever the data is inputted by the input device, it is stored in this place, and the data which has to be displayed by using the display unit, it has to be stored in this data out register. So in the status register, these are the bits, one is our S out, another one is our S in. So S out is used to provide the output status of the output device, and here the output device is our display device, and S in is used to provide the status of the input device, that is our keyboard. Then here are the control signals, one is our DEN, another one is our KEN. So DEN is used to control the display interrupt request, and KEN is used to control the keyboard interrupt request. Okay. Then this is an example, and this is a program which is used to establish the data transfer between the keyboard and the display. That means first the program is used to read the data from the keyboard and stores in the memory buffer, and then from main memory buffer it gives back into the display unit, so that we can easily visualize the output. So here our 2 signals, one is weight K, another one is weight D. So here K stands for the keyboard and D stands for the display. So first is our move hatch line R0. So here hatch means immediate addressing. So whatever the content of the line, it is transferred to R0, and this line is basically used to initialize the memory pointer, because when we want to store something new in a register, then first we have to clear the content of that register, then you can use it. So in the first step of the program, we have to initialize the memory pointer, and then you have to test the status bit of the input device here. Okay, because first we have to provide the input from the keyboard. So here we have to test the status register by setting it to 0, as here you can see. Okay. Then if branch equals to 0, then wait for the K, that means wait for the input response from the keyboard, and that is wait for character to be entered by the keyboard, that is why it is kept as wait K. Then move data in to R1. After reading the character from the keyboard, it will be stored in the data in register. Then from the data in register, it is transferred to the R1, and R1 is our processor register, but data in is one type of buffer which is attached to the input devices, and next one is our test bit has one status test S out. That means the data is placed in the data in register and you have to fetch it and you have to display it by using the output devices. So the status is our 1, that means the data is present but it is not fetched. Then branch equals to 0, wait D, that means wait for the display to become ready, because at this point of time when we are executing this instruction, maybe the display unit is busy to displaying other jobs or other tasks which is given to the computer system. So we have to wait for the display to become ready or to read the input which is given by the keyboard, and it has to fetch that from the memory buffer. So next, move whatever the content of R1. Now R1 contains the character which is given by the keyboard, and that character is first placed in this data in register, and from that data in register we moved that to another register, that is our R1. So at last the character which is given by the keyboard, it is present in the register R1. So from the R1 we have to move that to the data out register, because the data at out register is attached with the output device. That means by moving the content of R1 to the data out register, that means we are sending the character to the display unit. Then move the R1 and then R0 value will be updated. That means store the character and advance the pointer. That means points to the next character to be entered by the keyboard. So we have to increment the pointer. Here you can see, okay. So to read the next character which is provided by the keyboard, we have to increment the pointer which is initialized at the first step of our program here. So then you have to compare this, that means check if carry is return. If carry is return, then you have to go for another cycle, okay. Then if branch not equals to 0, then wait for the keyboard response. That means if branch is not equals to 0, then get another character from the keyboard. Next, move to the data out. That means you have to send a line feed character. This is one location. So that stores the line feed character, and we have to move that to the data out register and then call the process or call a subroutine to process the input line. By calling the process, so call a subroutine to process the input line, okay. So next one is the concept of program control IO, which I have discussed in an example. So in that example we have described that the program control IO in which the processor repeatedly checks a status flag to achieve the required synchronization between the processor and an input or output devices, okay. So in the previous example we have seen that there is a signal which is called as the test bit, and by generating that signal check the status of the flag, that is our S in or S out, and by checking that status flag repeatedly, the processor synchronizes the transfer between the processor. So by checking that status flags value repeatedly, the computer system achieves the synchronization between the processor and the IO devices. Then there are two other commonly used mechanisms for implementing IO operations are interrupt and direct memory access. So what do you mean by interrupt first? So interrupt means the synchronization is achieved by having the input and output device by sending a special signal over the bus whenever it is ready for a data transfer operation. So in the program control IO, we have seen that to execute a input output operation, or you can say to execute the data transfer between the input output devices and the memory unit, we have to check the status flags value repeatedly, okay. Again and again you have to check the status flag and you have to check the branch statement, that is our if branch equals to 0 or not. But in another technique, that is our interrupts, the synchronization between the processor and the input output device can be achieved by sending the input output device a special type of signal, and that special signal is called as our interrupt, and it is sent to the input and output devices by the buses, and when it will be sent to the device, and it is achieved by the device when that device is ready for the data transfer operation. The next one is our direct memory access. Here we do not need to send the signals through the bus. Okay, here we can directly transfer the data between the device and the memory by implementing an interface between that input output device and between the memory. Okay, so let us see the details about the interrupts and the direct memory access. So next one is our, what do you mean by interrupt? So everyone is familiar with the concept interrupt. That means when we are doing something important in our life and something which is not in our regular timetable, that can be called as the interrupt. So when the computer system executes a program, so when the computer system executes a program and within that some extra program which may be generated by some computer system or by some hardware devices, and that is external to that program, or you can say it is also external to that computer system, it is called as the interrupts. So basically interrupts are good things, and that is used to keep the processor busy, because when we have to implement an interrupt, or if some software or hardware components wants to interrupt the execution of a processing program, then it has to give a request, and when the processor is executing something or some program, then it can easily ignore the interrupt. But when it is waiting for the programs to be executed, that may at that point of time it can receive that request. Okay, so interrupts are basically used to avoid the processor for being waited for a maximum amount of time, and when it will be received, because when the processor is not performing any useful computations, so a signal which is generated by some external devices, or you can say the external components, that is called as an interrupt to the processor, and when the processor is idle, at that point of time it can easily receive that signal and it can work on that signal. Okay, so at least one of the bus control lines called an interrupt request line is usually decided, or you can say in between the three buses, either address bus or memory bus, address bus, data bus or control bus. One bus is dedicated to carry the interrupt request line. Okay, by providing the interrupt request, the device request to the processor to receive the request which is given by that device. The next one is our an interrupt service routine. So an interrupt service routine is usually needed and is executed when an interrupt request is issued. So that interrupt service routine means it is a set of instructions which is generated by a hardware device, or you can say it is also can be generated by some software components of a computer system also. So next one is our, on the other hand, the processor must inform the device that its request has been recognized, so that it may remove its interrupt request signal, and to provide that an interrupt acknowledge signal served this function. That means after receiving the interrupt request from the hardware device or from the software device, the processor informs that device which generated the interrupt to remove the interrupt request signal, because by removing that the device can also send another interrupt request, or the processor can process or can be able to process some other programs at that point of time. So, to inform the device about the interrupt request signal or the acceptance of the interrupt request signal, the processor generates an interrupt acknowledged signal to the device or to the device which generates the interrupt signal, and then it executes the interrupt service routine. So, in today's class I have discussed the concept of memory mapped I/O, the program control I/O, and some introduction part about the interrupts, and in the next class we will discuss about the details of the interrupts and another technique, that is our direct memory access. If you have any doubt, then you can mention it in the comment section. Thank you.